Good morning, venters. This has been one of the nicest Thanksgiving, I don't know, what would you call it, Thanksgiving weekends ever. Had my second Thanksgiving yesterday with my daughter and my son-in-law, and today we're going to have a third Thanksgiving. But each day I'm eating reasonably, drinking water, staying away from sugar, and I'm walking. Why is that important? Because wouldn't it be a bummer if every single time we had a holiday we just had to gain 2 or 3 pounds? We can avoid this, and it's as easy as walking with your boy Jesse and the rest of the venters. Guys, what do you think of when I say hazing? Sometimes I think of like old military movies where maybe they were hazing somebody they didn't like, right? Like Private Santiago and A Few Good Men. But more than likely, you're probably thinking college frat house. Maybe a young man lost his life because his friends supposedly ended up torturing him and making him drink way too much alcohol or even doing drugs. One thing that you and I would probably never think of is hazing happening at work, especially when it comes to a place like the fire department. Let's take our imaginations and let's put ourselves in Ocala, Florida.
This is Fire Station 21, where deputies in Marion County say a 19-year-old firefighter wasn't just hazed, he was battered and kidnapped. Sheriff Billy Woods described in detail what happened on November 19th, what's written out in these arrest affidavits for 4 Marion County Fire Rescue employees: EMT Edward Kenny, firefighter EMT Seth Day, firefighter EMT Tate Trouthwine, and paramedic Kaylee Bradley.
Now, I can understand men doing weird stuff because that's kind of what guys do, right? I don't understand why a paramedic's name is on this name, Kay Bradley, who I'm assuming is female. Guys, what they did was really repulsive. There was a 19-year-old newbie, a new firefighter, and he was subjected to, get this, kidnapping and battery in a hazing. And I think there's even a little SA. So let's go over what happened. 2 EMTs ended up spreading grease on his pants. When I first heard about that, I thought, well, what's the big deal? It's a little grease on your pants. You throw it in the wash. Worst case scenario, you replace the pants. Not that big of a deal, but that's only where it got started.
Chased him down in the parking lot. Once they caught him, they removed his pants from him, took his belt, then began to strike him on the backside with that belt.
The sheriff says it escalated even more when the victim was dragged across this parking lot, where Kenny and Day allegedly held him down while Trouthwine covered his face with a towel and poured water over it. Deputies say the only reason the other EMTs let go was because a call for service came in.
They did this due to a misunderstanding about a discarded pizza. So imagine the firehouse, right? They've got a fridge there, somebody opens it up, and there's been a pizza in there for the whole month, and they decide to throw it away. Well, that pissed off a couple of EMTs, so they ended up spreading grease on them. They also demanded a dance video from the victim's phone. So apparently they knew about some sort of video he did, and they were demanding it from him. Apparently he didn't want to give that up.
In my 30 years as a firefighter, this is the most egregious thing that I've seen, been reported to me. Our priority moving forward is ensuring that every member of this department works in a safe, respectful, and professional environment.
According to Sheriff Billy Woods, the 4 employees chased down the victim, removed his pants, and then struck him with his very own belt across the backside. Then he was dragged across the parking lot where he was held down, his face was covered with a towel, and they proceeded to pour water all over him. You might ask yourself, how did this end? It ended because the EMT were called out on a call. So they literally went from abusing this young man, pulling down his pants, beating him with his own belt, and then basically waterboarding him like something that would happen in the Vietnam War, right? They end up doing this to him, and then they ended up going to go help somebody on a call. Seems really crazy. The fire chief said it was the most egregious incident that he's seen in his 30-year career,
Their behavior does not reflect who we are and what we stand for.
Perhaps the most shocking thing of all is that the 19-year-old victim remains employed at the fire department.
I asked the chief if the 19-year-old who's been working at the department for less than a year is still working here after having to endure all of this. The chief told me he is, at his own request, and his own words were, "I have a job to do and I need to do that job."
It's his dream to be a firefighter, and the last thing he's going to do is give up his dream because of these 4 criminals. These 4 criminals on any other given day would be referred to as a hero, but I think that these people probably need to spend a little time behind bars, and I would love to know your thoughts on it. Me and my buddy Chris, we infiltrated a Grand Canyon University / ASU party back in the mid-90s. They ended up finding out that we were high school kids and not college kids, and they ended up getting my buddy Chris completely obliterated with Cuervo, tequila. And when he ended up falling asleep, they ended up shaving an eyebrow, shaving off his hair. He ended up getting alcohol poisoning. I ended up having to drive him to the hospital. It was a really, really gnarly situation. So do these things happen? Yes. But you would expect them to happen from college kids. You would expect that you would be safe working for a fire department. So in that regard, I feel for this 19-year-old, but here's what I love about the 19-year-old, and I hope you guys do too. A real hero wouldn't give up very easily, right? This guy is choosing to stay on the force, and he's probably gonna make for a hell of a firefighter, because in addition to helping people, he also knows what it's like to be bullied and treated as an outsider. And that's probably a good skill and a good knowledge base for a firefighter to have in his repertoire. So whoever you are, 19-year-old victim, you're still gonna be a hero in the near future because you're a firefighter now. So that's awesome. Me, myself, I've never met a firefighter I didn't like. They all seem really, really awesome. And I think we can all agree that 99.99% of them are. I think what happens is, once again, in a world where we have 7 billion people, and in a country like the US where we have, 360 million people, on any given day, you're gonna be able to find out a lot about good people that do bad things. And occasionally there's legit bad people that just happen to be in a really nice, noteworthy type profession, such as being a firefighter. Now, I do want to mention this though. If you're an EMT and you're not necessarily battling the fires, I don't know if you're considered a firefighter or not. So all 4 of these people that were terminated were either EMTs or paramedics. So the only victim here was a firefighter. So I'm just gonna say that firefighters are still perfect in my eyes, minus the occasional 1 or 2 that end up being arsonists. When I first found out that sometimes the firefighters themselves fantasize about starting fires so that they can go and rescue the city and put them out, right? I thought that was a little weird, but if you think about it, it makes sense. You gotta be a little fascinated with fire to want to be a fire department worker, right? To be a fire rescue person. Here we are, the very end of November, getting ready to head into December. And my goodness, guys, I'm not even joking. It feels like 95 to 100 degrees out here. And it was hot yesterday as well. Greg Smith says, they always say this does not reflect who we are. But when caught, guess what? Actions speak louder than words. I think there's a lot of people, if you ask them questions, they might sound like the most, upstanding person in the world. But if we were to take a microscope and examine their actual actions, a lot of times they're very, very human. And what I mean by that is they're definitely not perfect, if you know what I mean. Mesothelioma Mike says, thank you for naming these criminals. I named them simply because the video did. Here's the thing I like about naming the criminals. I think there should be a certain element of shame attached to crime. Right now, when a person has 17 felonies on a rap sheet a mile long, we kind of look at that and we say, oh, that's on the judge. Well, the judge should be publicly shamed. We should actually get to know who the judge was that let these people out all these times. But I think in addition to the judge and the parole board, I think we should put a little shame on these criminals. Shame has a deterrent aspect to it. You know, nobody wants to be known as the criminal. But sometimes you wonder, when they have a rap sheet that long, sometimes it makes you wonder, do they actually enjoy being a thug, being a criminal? Maybe we should bring back public humiliation. Let's tar and feather these people. Christian Carr said, I hope the guy sues everyone involved. I don't think this was an isolated incident either. No, this was the first incident where they got caught. And I wouldn't be surprised if each one of these people actually went through hazings themselves. But I'll tell you what, I hate when people say sue. You're not suing some individual company, you're suing us, the people, whose tax dollars go so we can have a fire department in case a fire starts burning in the neighborhood or city that we live in. So yeah, does he deserve to sue? Does he deserve to be remunerated? Yes. Give him $500,000. Give him $1 million. Don't you dare give this guy $25 million knowing that what? 40% of it goes right to the lawyers? It's crap. That's why everything is so expensive, because we're constantly having these, we're basically making lottery winners out of everybody that sues. This guy, does he deserve to be waterboarded and whipped with his own belt? No. Give him $500,000. Give him $1 million. Let him keep his job. Do what you got to do, but you don't. This guy does not deserve $25 million, because it doesn't come from the people that did it to him. It comes from the taxpayers. Same with that teacher that got shot. My thinking is, don't give her $25 million or whatever they did. Give her $4 or $5 million, and then whoever did that to her, put a permanent tax on their freaking paycheck and make them pay for it. Right? You heard about that teacher, she got shot by a 5-year-old kid in school. Make the parents be permanently taxed. Why should everybody, why should the school that's already hurting financially, why should they have to pay that woman $25 million because they had a principal that didn't give a crap? That is ridiculous. How much you want to bet that principal will end up resurfacing somewhere else, being a principal again, making 6 figures? Why do these people that obviously are failures, why do they get so many chances, and why do we end up being the real victims? If we end up having to pay taxes to pay these victims off, how is that fair for anybody involved? I still say, hey, torture me for an hour or two and give me $25 million. I can handle it. That's what I say. Let me ask you guys this. Let's be honest. Who watching this would be willing to partake in 2 or 3 hours worth of torture knowing they're going to get paid $25 million? Yeah, that's right. Every single one of us would. It's ridiculous. Give the guy $1 million. Let's call it a day. Kane Zhao says, can you imagine just turning into an adult, getting your very first job, and then you end up working with a-holes like this? I think wherever you work, you're always going to have people that look down on you. You're always going to have people that don't like you. I think what we need to do as human beings is we need to find better ways to communicate with one another and better ways to get along. I'm glad they found this out about these 4 people. I wish that we had a video of it. Why? Well, because what if they whipped him in a way where it wasn't even that big of a deal? What if they put a shirt over him and waterboarded him? But what if it was a simple Dixie cup of water? Nobody even knows what happened. I mean, the guy still wants to work there. Does that mean it was really not that huge of a deal? You know, believe it or not, there are a lot of frivolous lawsuits, and just because the fire department guy said it was the worst thing he's seen or heard of in 30 years, that's because you never hear about this stuff. This is the only hazing thing I've ever heard from a fire department. I'll take the 25 million. Roe Robinson says, so we're calling waterboarding hazing? Roe, waterboarding is horrible, and I'm sorry this kid went through it. But I have a feeling he didn't go through the waterboarding that they probably do for terrorists and stuff. Should we really give this guy 25 million bucks? If it was that horribly traumatic, wouldn't he have resigned and never wanted anything to do with the fire department again? Now, right now, people's blood are boiling, thinking, Jesse, you're a jerk. Whose side are you on, good or evil? I'm always on the side of good. I want those EMTs, I want them punished. But I don't want us as the people to give this guy 25 million bucks because of a shitty day where he got bullied. Every single one of us has been bullied in our life. What did we get for it? We got a life lesson. That's what we got. We didn't make a penny off of it. 25 million bucks. Think about what that is. And I'm just making that up out of the air, but you know that's what it's going to be. 10, 15, 25 million. Someone shoots you with a gun, all of a sudden a school district owes you 25 million bucks. Oh, those things should make people sick. Am I the only one that likes the idea of taking the perpetrator of a crime and putting a permanent tax on that person for the rest of their lives and have that money go to the victim and the victim's families? That would be actual justice. When you and I, as a member of the community, have to watch our tax dollars go to nothing. 25 million bucks go to this guy. And I'm making up 25 million, but you know it's going to be something huge. I'll tell you what else bothers me. Some of us have put ourselves in an unhealthy situation because of this holiday, and I want that to be reversed now. So make sure you put on your shoes, go for a walk, tell me your thoughts on this story. It's totally okay if you disagree with me, and I hope you do, and we'll talk about it later. Have a good night.